Hey y'all, Shannon here. It's Election Day 2020, and I've been thinking a lot about this story. It actually was in this cute little collection of stories that we used to carry around at camp, Buffalo Mountain Camp in Tennessee, and we would keep it in our backpack. We would pull it out when we needed to share a story when we were taking a break on a hike or sitting around the campfire at night. And this story has come to mind at least once or twice a week, every week for the last 4 years. And so I thought I'd share it with you today. I'm not going to read it, but because I'm really just about speaking stories. I think it's so beautiful. There once was a large island that was divided into 7 kingdoms, and the kingdoms, they all hated and feared each other. Many stories about how each kingdom was different from the other abounded in the culture. One kingdom believed that the next was full of robbers, and the next kingdom believed that the next kingdom was full of people who would murder you. The island had no source of fresh water, and so each of the kingdoms was forced to broker with other kingdoms far away in order to bring fresh water to them. And it kept them very poor. There were stories, though, in the stories that the elders would tell each other about how there once had been fresh water on the island, but no one knew where it had gone. There was this young girl, her name was Philly, and after watching how her people had become more and more poor over time, she decided that she was going to set out and see if anybody else on the island knew where the water had gone. And because the island was divided into these 7 kingdoms by very high walls that radiated out from a center point like spokes on a wheel, she waited until everyone went to sleep in her kingdom, and she swam out around the barrier, and she woke up on the beach the next morning in the next kingdom. And she discovered there that the people were all very similar to her own. Sure, the spice that they put in their food was a little bit different, and over time she grew to love it. She was accepted by them after a while, and she watched the children play, and she listened to the elders' stories. And then after a while she told them about the adventure she was on. And they were very afraid for her, and they said, "Oh no, you can't go to the next kingdom because they are all liars. They will lie straight to your face. You won't be able to believe a thing that they say." She said, "I have to continue on in my quest." So one night she waited until everyone fell asleep, and again she swam out around the barrier to the next kingdom, and she woke up on the beach. And yet again she found that while the food was a little bit strange, she came to love it. And she watched the children play, and she listened to the elders' stories. And after she'd gone to all of the 7 kingdoms, and she'd listened, and she'd watched, and she'd paid attention to everyone, and she had enjoyed the food, she started to have an idea. So she sent word back to all of the 7 kingdoms, and she asked them all to converge at the middle of the island. And on the day, they could hear the rumbling of each of the other people on the other sides of the walls. And then Philly, she rose up at the center point of the spoke of all the walls. And there she had in her hand an axe, which she drove into the stone. And of course, because it was axe going into stone, nothing much happened at first. But then she kept going until there was the slightest sound of a rumbling. And she kept hammering over and over and over again until suddenly a burst of water came up. It knocked her off the wall, and she climbed back up, and she yelled to all of the kingdoms around behind the 7 walls, and she said, "Your hate and fear of each other led you to wall off the 7 rivers that flow from this geyser over time." And so the people came to understand that that is how they had kept themselves poor, by dishonoring and distrusting each other. So they went and they took the walls down, and they learned to turn to one another again. And Philly was given the name Philoxenus, which means lover of people. Friends, this day is full of stress and anxiety for many. And I know that this day may not actually end with this day. But I want to encourage you to not look at each other with distrust, to not bring hate and fear in a cloud over your eyes. We have so much potential. Let us bring the water back.